Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good night, no matter where you are in the world. I'm glad you're here watching the YouTube video, or if you're listening on Spotify or anything, the Sheetmetal Unleashed podcast. Thank you. Today I've got a great guest. I've got a fabricator from down in Florida. He works with Johnson Controls down there, and we've been talking on Instagram, and I wanted to get him on here because he's run a different bunch of machines and stuff. So let's get him on here and welcome Brian Spencer. Brian, how are you, buddy? Doing good?
All right. How are you doing?
Good, man. Good. It's Saturday, of course. We're recording this on Saturday. I had a bunch of chores to do this morning, man. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm glad to be sitting down for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Unfortunately, it was like Saturday. That's what Saturdays are for. You feel like you're going to get a break, and then you end up doing more work on Saturday than during the week.
I know. Sometimes you have to go to work to get a break,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, man, you reached out to me on Instagram, and I enjoyed the comment and everything, and I wanted to get you on here because this podcast is all about fabricators, shop owners. It's just to hear everybody's story, background, how they got into fabrication. I want to make, and it helps put a spotlight on manufacturing and fabrication for young kids that want to get in this because they can make some decent money. All right. I know there's college out there, but sometimes it's always good to have a trade. So, um, can you tell us about yourself and give us how you got into fabrication?
Yeah. So originally, I'm from Indiana, small town there, and um, heavy manufacturing town. But I never really was interested in it growing up. Real heavy into sports. Uh,
Hmm.
Figured I'd go to college, get into the sports industry somehow, and got into college and realized that my study habits weren't the best.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think this is for me. So then I was kind of in a panic, and I was like, that was back when the West Coast Choppers was real big on TV.
Oh yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
Maybe I can weld. So I went to a little community college in Indianapolis and signed up to the welding school. Went through that, but I was working at UPS at the time, and I was like, well, that was going pretty good. I was kind of working my way through that. I was like, well, let me try this route. So I kind of put the welding on the back burner, and did that for a few years. Kind of went to Florida for a couple of years. Worked I was in an air filter company there,
Hmm.
and we decided to move back to Indianapolis. So then uh, my son, my wife told me she was pregnant with my son. And I'm like, you know what? I need to do something where I work at night so I can stay home during the day.
Yeah.
And um, ended up working for um, FedEx for a while. And then I was like, it just wasn't cutting it money wise. And I ended up finding a place close to where I stayed. It was called Lion's Head Precision Metals.
Yeah.
And it was it was great. It's still like I consider it probably the best place I've worked. Um, Kind of a smaller shop, but the guy that bought it put a lot of money into it. And I started
Yeah.
out, just knocking out the skeletons that came out off the laser, knocking out all that metal, grinding
What
and that.
what laser were you running back then?
It was a Trump.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They had all Trump stuff. And, so I was just kind of helping them out. And then they're like, hey, we want to try you on our panel bender. And back then, that was like state of the art Trump panel bender. And
Yeah.
there's like one other guy on the floor that they had trained to do it. And they wanted me to run it on the night shift. So that was kind of where I got my start, really learning measurements, how to set everything up and do that. And I moved into brake press there. Um, Kind of did everything that they needed to in the shop. Um, but yeah, they were real helpful. Did a lot to help me out. Trained me really well on everything, and
Mhm.
really enjoyed the people. And that's kind of what set me up to stay in manufacturing was that company.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so then I moved to Florida. Kind of got uh, odds and ends trying to find something that I liked, and then ended up finding Johnson Controls and got into brake press there. And then they wanted to move me over to lasers, and then that's kind of where I started running the laser and the combo laser Armada.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what combo laser was that? That not the older Paleo, was it? Or
No, no, it's
uh
the yeah, the was that the 3015 fiber laser? Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I ran one of those Paleos combos back
Uh,
in the day, but that was the first one they come out where the punch wasn't isolated from the laser, right?
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. Um, and so so what keeps you passionate about working with the metal machines?
So I think now that I've done it for a while, and I've learned pretty much everything on there because when something happens, I usually try to fix it myself instead of getting maintenance involved.
Yeah.
So I've learned a lot on that. But I think what keeps me going is training people that come in. I really enjoy training the new people that come in and just kind of
Yeah.
showing them what I've learned.
That's good. Yeah, yeah. It's always good. Are you training like younger guys that are coming in from probably left high school and just picking up a shop job or
It's kind of a wider range of people because I trained a guy he'd only been in the country from Cuba for like 6 months and barely spoke English, but I was able to train him, and he did a really good job on there.
yeah,
Kind of a younger guy, and then just people that maybe have come in and they put them on knocking out metal, and then they moved them up and thought that they had um, you know the knowledge, the intelligence to be able to run the machines, so they put them on.
yeah.
I started training, but yeah, it's kind of just a wide range of people that I've trained.
Yeah, yeah. Uh so what's a typical day look like for you in the shop anyway when you go to work? Are you working night shift now or
Yeah,
daytime now?
yeah, night shift.
Night
Yeah,
shift.
yeah. So it's 10 to 6:30, and then I'm a team lead over the turrets and laser. So I've got to come in a little early. We do,
Mhm.
we do our meeting, and then I go around and make sure everything's organized for everybody. Um, and kind of set up to how they have it in order from the upstairs, and just go around, make sure everything's working all right. And then if anybody has any problems, I try to uh, set them up so they can run pretty smooth. Um,
Yeah.
and then if they need, they're changing tools, I'll go sharpen the tools for them and get all that stuff ready to go. Uh,
Okay, okay.
and then,
And, hey, what kind of tool sharpener are you using? You using the one from Amada or a
yeah, it's Amada. Yeah, the
okay, okay.
Togu, I think it is. I think.
Yeah, yep, that rings a bell. Yeah. I had one of those in the shop back in my early years running the punch. We had a Togu tool grinder. Had the Wilson tool grinder. That was pretty good. I like that one. It was pretty spacious, and they're working on that. Um, So, but you mainly take care of all the sharpening and stuff like that, and
Yeah, yep. When they're changing tools, there's certain tools that we replace every night, and they get pretty bad shape. So yeah, I usually I sharpen all those for everybody. Yeah.
okay, okay, nice.
And then
So, yeah, uh,
I still run the combo and the laser too. Um,
okay.
yeah, we just they moved the person that was running it, so I jumped back over there to run that.
Now, now we talked about this the other day because I remember Johnson Controls from quite a few years ago. in Florida, and I think that was when you in the when it was in the older building. I think it was because that's probably going back 8 years, maybe.
Yeah, I think they moved over there like 6 years ago to the new building.
Okay,
Yeah,
yes,
or so. Yeah.
yes. I would have been around about 8 years ago. I come down and help set up some of your press brakes to run with offline software. Um, so it was quite funny to meet you on Instagram, and it just goes to show this is a small world,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it is. Yep.
Um,
And it's actually the machine that I started on, when I first got there was the one that you were saying that you got the software.
that would have been the acupresses. I believe it was the acupresses.
Yep.
Um, I couldn't remember how many they. I think they had four or something.
Yeah, I think they've got 6 now, I think is how many.
Okay.
Yeah. Five or 6, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, so do you do you have any manual machines you work on, or not really?
No.
In the shop, there's
Yeah.
nothing manual.
No, they've got a, tool room where the maintenance guys, they've got guys that are tool and die, so they make their own,
Okay.
yeah, so they're in there running the manual lathes and stuff like that, so.
Oh, okay. Because you guys running stamping machines down there too? Are you?
Yes, yeah, we have a
Okay.
whole, so I work in the press shop, and then we've got a whole coil section, uh,
Hmm.
that runs all the coils, and they've got the stamping over there, so.
Man, well, what's it like with tool? I remember. See, I worked in a stamping shop up here, Ryco and D-Tech back in the day. It's now K-Tech, I believe. Um, we had a hard time finding tool and die makers down here. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
we,
it's the guy that's in there now is, he's getting up there, and they're looking for somebody to, try to learn under him and everything. And
yeah,
the
yeah,
maintenance on our shift asked me if I'd be interested in going over there and learning it. The only problem is it would be um, a downgrade in pay until, for just a little bit until I got to where I was up
yeah.
level. But for right now, I'd have to drop down in pay.
Do they do like a apprenticeship for a tool and die maker there, or
Yeah, I guess you could call it that. I mean, it's not necessarily like officially an apprenticeship program they do, but
yeah,
they do. They were looking for somebody. They had a guy that was there that was pretty much just a tool sharpener. Like that's what he did to kind of get his foot in the door, and then they were going to train him. But then he ended up leaving for another position. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so yeah, they're kind of looking for somebody to bring along.
No, no. Um, how do you so you guys obviously making your own products, right? Um, you don't do any custom products down there. It's pretty much the same product, just different sizes, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. Occasionally, engineering will come up with something different that they want done, and then for
Mm,
a different customer, and then they'll change it, and it's pretty much the same thing, same type of units. We got small units all the way up to like high rises that go on top of rooftops and stuff. So
yeah, yep, yep. Man, yeah, I've done plenty of those rooftop. I used to do the rooftop roof curbs, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So, well, what's the most challenging part of your role at your shop now?
Um, I think just kind of keeping everybody uh, going because there's always some problem. One machine
Hmm.
will go down, and then they'll come over, and then I'll try to help them out, and then another person will come over. So it's kind of trying to keep track of everything and make sure everybody stays running. And I mean, we've got maintenance that'll go out there, but I try to if it's something quick that I can fix and get them going faster than having maintenance come out. I usually try to do that. So I'd say
Yeah.
trying to just, keep up with everybody. Before, I was just my own machine, so I that's all I had to worry about. But now
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's all of them, so now I have to kind of bounce around and. Um, but I enjoy it though because it's a challenge and it keeps me going.
Hmm.
And then
Yeah,
there's a guy that I've been training and he's doing a good job, but he still comes over and asks me for advice on different things. So that's
yeah, yeah. Um, what uh, what skills do you think essential for fabricators today? So I know some states are different. Fabrication shops run a little different from here up north and stuff like that. So, what skills do you think are essential for fabricators that are coming into work in your shop? What are you looking for?
I think somebody that is willing to learn. I think that's
Hmm.
the thing because you run into a lot of people that are just kind of there and they're just kind of like whatever when something happens. And it's you kind of look for the people that want to do a good job. And I think that's the most important thing, but also people that listen, that don't think they know everything already. And um, those are probably the two biggest things, just listening and then have a will to learn. Um,
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and like I can deal with, people being slow, having a hard time learning, if they're a slow learner, that's fine. But if they're showing a will to, to want to do a good job, like that's the most important thing.
yeah. I think so too. I think I think a lot of people look at some of the jobs that are advertised and be like, "Oh no, I can't do that." You got to have some sort of experience. But sometimes I think it's like if you got a good attitude and you come in and you prove yourself and you want to work, heck, I'd hire someone like that in a heartbeat and train them up because sometimes that they don't have any bad habits
Yeah. Yeah.
coming from other shops or how they used to run machines, right?
Yeah, yeah, and usually when I train somebody and they're like new to it and they're kind of overwhelmed at first, and I always tell them just work on what you understand now, and we can
Mm.
build from there. Like, don't try to know the entire machine the first day. Like, it's going to take time, and you just got to build step by step. And I think a lot of times people get overwhelmed and they get scared of trying to learn something new, learn a new machine, when it's if you take it piece by piece, it's not as uh, difficult as what it seems when you first look at it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think stick with the basics, right? And
Yeah.
and then because the more you run that machine, the better you get at it. That it's the same thing, right? But
Yes. Yeah, and I feel like I can sit there and be by somebody's side for 6 months, and the only way they're really going to learn is by themselves, and something happens, and they just got to figure it out. That's the way. That's the best way to really learn. Get them the basics, and then they just kind of have to figure it out once things happen, and then
yeah.
go and build that knowledge of the machine.
Mhm. So what would be here's just some quick fun questions. What's your favorite tool or machine in the shop and why?
I think it's the Pega, that Amada Pega. That
Oh,
thing, it's 2 years younger than me. It was it, was made in '86,
yeah,
and the thing is still going strong. It's just a workhorse.
yeah,
And I like to go over. There's times I just go over there and I'll just run that Pega and run it all night. It's just simple. It's once you get the idea of it, it's fun, quick machine, but it's just a workhorse.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've seen a couple of old ones out there actually. I've seen some older than the Pega.
Uh,
I was amazed to see it. I found it in a shop in Charlotte. So yeah, yeah. Um, have you had to learn any CAD CAM programming as part of your role?
it's kind of with the combo. I've learned quite a bit on, because sometimes the programmers upstairs, they'll send stuff down and it'll mess up. So
Hmm.
I've learned how to go in there and take out some of the code that they've put in and then reset it to try to make it run better.
Yeah,
So I've done that, but I haven't actually gotten into where, programming the whole thing myself.
yeah,
But
yeah. No, it's yeah. I did a lot of programming at the machine before I even got into the software side of it as well. But I think sometimes it's nice to have somebody that can program on the shop floor as well, so you can modify a program or re-nest it, because sometimes unfortunately, engineers sometimes they will make a program and it won't run right, especially if you're running a punch combo machine. There's different things you need to do as well. um, there's a lot more goes into it sometimes.
yeah, and sometimes if they put 12 gauge on there, and you've got to change the tools that are in there, or
Hmm.
you take out the code that has the punching in it, and then, it'll run just laser. So
Okay.
one thing that I've, you know, gotten pretty good at has been able to take that out and then, you know, make sure it does laser holes instead of trying to punch the 12 gauge.
Yeah, because if you got a lot, that's pretty heavy on that 12 gauge
Yeah. Yeah.
gun. Um, how has technology changed the way you guys work?
Um, I think it's allowed for people that maybe would be scared of running a machine or maybe didn't think that they could and it was too
Hmm.
difficult. I think it's allowed for people to move over and run those machines because um, it's simplified, and with people being able, more comfortable with computers nowadays and everything, I think that's
Yeah,
helped, being able to train just about anybody to be able to run a machine. They might not necessarily be able to do all the operator things, being able to um, troubleshoot and things like that, but they can at least operate the machine. You know.
yeah, yeah. I believe the way some of the controllers. So I work with Mitsubishi lasers at press brakes, but you take the controllers on the newer controllers now. That it's just like running an iPad or an iPhone, right? It's got that look and feel now.
Yeah.
Um, but we've had to sort of make it easy as well, because I mean, we don't have a lot of people lining up to be press brake operators and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
You're
true.
sort of just thrown into that role,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's kind of, somebody leaves and they're like, oh, well, this person shows promise, so let's just throw them over here and, we'll train them on this.
yeah,
Kind of,
yeah.
it's kind of how it works now.
So and I know you said you look after all the lasers and punches and that, but do you go over and do a lot with the press brake still? And
Not really anymore. No,
hmm,
I haven't been on a brake press in a while.
yeah,
I pretty much just stay over there with with the lasers and turrets.
hmm,
But
hmm,
yeah, I've wanted to try to see if I could sneak over there, and see if they need any extra help, just so I can sharpen up my skills.
yeah,
Brush brush the dust off. But usually they want me to stay over where I'm
yeah,
at.
yeah. Well, yeah, because some shops I'll have you run a laser and a press brake while the laser's running.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, and that would be something, I wish they'd let me do that. I really enjoyed doing the press break.
yeah.
It was it was fun. I like to see
Um,
it, but
how has the technology changed um, the the way you guys work? So I know when you started back in the day, technology has changed a lot, right?
yeah. Yeah, I think with that shop, it's still kind of, I mean, the combo is probably the newest thing we have. and
Mm-hmm.
that's green, and that's real simple to go. But like a lot of the Amada machines are still a little bit older, so they
Yeah.
still got the older technology. So I think maybe they still kind of do stuff though, kind of old school there. So I don't think, as far as like moving metal and everything, it's still kind of that old way of moving everything around. I mean, everything's in the computer, but it's still kind of maybe a little dated, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, as far as um, the combo and the laser, just having the like the loaders on that is helpful. Not having to load every single different size material on there. To
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
with the EMKs or the Kings, if you change gauge, you got to take it out, have the forklift get it, bring back the new, another pallet. But with those, you have different levels, so you can store different size of metal. So that's kind of makes everything go a lot faster than
Yeah.
the old Kings and EMKs.
The now you're saying that that combo's a fiber laser, right?
Yes.
How many kilowatts is that?
It's 8.
8 kilowatt.
Yeah.
Whoa, on a combination. What kind of thickness are you guys cutting on there?
We don't go very thick. It's um, that 12 gauge is the thickest we do, and we don't really ever do it on there. It's usually um, like 20 gauge, 18. That's about
Mm-hmm.
where we stay. So,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I've seen them, and I was at Murata one day, and at FabTech too, and I was seeing the combos with the fiber laser, and there seems to be a lot of covers on that thing, right?
oh yeah,
Because fiber has to be enclosed on that. Um, yeah, how's it like? After running the old CO2 combos, you don't have a lot of guards in the way or covers. You can get in there and do some things, and is that a bit of a pain in the butt
yeah,
sometimes, or?
yeah. Sometimes you got to kind of contort your body to get in there to uh,
Yeah.
whether you're changing a tool in the turret, or you're getting up there and getting the nozzle out to try to change it, or the laser itself isn't as bad. It's got the doors that swing open, so you can kind of get in there and work. But that
Okay.
um, the combo, it's a little different. It's a little bit tighter to get inside there, but
Yeah.
uh, it's still not as bad. Like, you can get up there, but yeah, you kind of have to contort your body to get in there a little bit. But
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because I've been looking at them from everybody. I'm not just calling out somebody, but I've seen a lot of those combo machines, and I know all fiber lasers have to be enclosed, but those combos, because you've got a sheet, and normally you're dragging a sheet, right? So
yeah.
you're limited to space. What size sheet are you running on those on
Uh,
your one?
so we always mostly they're like 120 by 48. So
Okay.
sometimes we'll use like a 50 by 48 sheet, but I'd say 95% of the time it's 120 by 48.
Okay,
What we
okay.
run. Yeah. And then on the laser, we'll run 90 by 60, kind of
Okay,
bigger panels. But yeah, on the combo, we don't usually try to run them that big, that wide. But
yeah. And you're doing a lot of custom forming on those, punch machines and combo machines? Any special tooling, tapping?
um, not really. Some of the so like the EMKs have the uh, where they'll kind of put a door in there, so like a panel. And
Mhm.
they've got the louver,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so we've got to punch the louver, and the access door is what we punch on those. EMKs are the only ones that do it. Um, but yeah, there's a few other like uh, latch tools. things like that we've got to use for
Yeah.
um, the doors that go on the units.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, are there any tools or tricks you've learned that make your job easier?
Um, I'm trying to think, see if I can. Um, there are some things where I'll go into a program where I'll keep it from maybe like with the laser. When you bring a sheet in, it measures three sides. It measures twice on the. Um, I guess if you're looking at it, be the right side, and then in the front, it'll measure to get the size of the sheet. Well,
Hmm.
the 90 by 60, it'll cut. It makes another cut, kind of I guess maybe if you can use the back side of that sheet. So what I do is I take that extra cut out, because if you don't, you've got to readjust every sheet.
Mm.
So I've learned if I take that extra cut out, which it doesn't have any bearing on the part that it's actually cutting, so
Yep.
it doesn't do anything. So I take that extra cut out and it'll just keep running. So I don't have
Yep.
to adjust every single sheet. So things like that I've picked up on, just kind of learning, uh, and then we've got to adjust, like we do stitch tooling, and you've got to adjust.
What's that? What's the stitch tooling? What's that?
So it's what they do is, so it gets back to like the final assembly, and they're able to just bend it by hand instead of having to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it just kind of, I guess, perforates it, kind of like to where it makes it kind of a little bit flimsier, to where, I mean, it takes a little bit it's stiff, so it takes a little bit of strength to move it, but yeah, so they can just bend it by hand and kind of make like a box.
Yeah. Do
And
you do you use Wilson tools, mate tooling? You're using a bit of both?
yeah, it's kind of
A
it,
mishmash?
yeah, there's a wide range, but
Okay.
because they've got some of those, and then it's just kind of, I think, whatever they could get, and then um, yeah, so it's kind of just a wide range of tooling.
Nice, nice. Um, let's see here. What's one of the coolest or most memorable projects you've worked on in your years of fabrication? Even if it was in the shop, the first shop you started at as well. What's one of the coolest projects?
I think I worked at a place that built like these machines that made wood doors,
Hmm.
and um, they had to, after they built the machine, they realized that they had to put oh shoot, I can't think the name of it. It's a like a three phase, kind of like an adapter, I guess, for because where they were sending it, it was what they had in the shop wasn't going to work for what they had.
Okay.
So yeah, I can't think of the name of what it's called. But anyways, I had to fabricate something for that to sit on and go on there. So it let me get back into my welding,
Hmm.
after all those years, get back and weld a little. Um, and it turned out perfect. Like the welds were perfect. Like I didn't have to adjust the spacing. Like it fit right into the holes I drilled for it and everything. I mean, it
Yeah.
fits. So I was like, hey, I might be a fabricator yet. So
Yeah.
so I
It,
that was pretty cool, because just how well it went and got me back into welding again. Um, yeah, and I think just seeing training people and seeing them do well was kind of um, you know something that um, I don't know if cherish is the word, but something I'm proud of.
yeah.
So stuff like it. Yeah,
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. I've worked with a few guys, trained them, and they they they're doing really well, and that's what it's about. Just if you could just help someone or reach out, reach one person, they go out and reach five more. That's great.
yeah,
Um, now I'm with you on the welding. I've got a welder at home, TIG, stick, MIG, but yeah, I still every now and then go and play on it, right? Because it's always nice to have that behind you.
Yeah.
So, now I know I'm not the only one. I've caught a laser on fire before. It happens. Okay. So, have you ever had a machine go completely haywire on you?
No, actually not. No, I haven't really had anything big happen. Um, you burn a hole in the lens protector, but I've never had anything happen to the actual lens. Knock
Yeah.
on wood. But yeah, I've never really had anything just go that I can think of that just went crazy. And um, those the kings there have a mind of their own, and those things are
Yeah.
all doing something like eh, they do stuff where it just kind of defies logic, and then you're like trying to
Yeah.
figure out how it happened. But yeah, I haven't had anything really catastrophic happen.
Uh,
Machine.
yeah. Vipro's King 358 I used to run when I was living in Denver, Colorado. And I went to work one day and I programmed by hand at the controller, right? So I made a program. I've done it many times. Come over, hit the clamp, punched right through the clamp, replaced it, redone the program, did it again. And I was like, I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm done for the day. Thank you. See ya. But
I, I,
uh,
there was that Lion's Head that I worked at in Indianapolis. The guy that trained me on the panel bender, so they had a one of those robotic uh, brake press where it had the arm where it'd pick up the tool, and
oh
then
yeah.
and so he was in charge, kind of programming that, and he took that arm, and I don't know how, like he took it and put that arm through the roof of the
What?
in like a box, yeah. So that was interesting. That wasn't me that but that was somebody that
Yeah.
yeah.
My do you guys have robotics there? Like on a
Uh, no, we don't.
not yet.
Not
Not
yet.
yet. Not yet. Okay. Can you share a moment where well actually probably done really. What's the funniest or most unexpected thing you've seen in a shop besides putting the robot through the roof? We
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Man, I worked in a CNC shop, and I think it was just funny whenever you heard a noise, everybody just peeked. It was like uh, I saw a meme where it was like the ground, not groundhogs, but the whatever they are, where they pop their heads out of the ground and look.
yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
what it was. Anytime somebody, like, you heard that noise and you knew something crashed, but you didn't know what machine, so everybody's head just kind of popped up and looked out, and that was
Yeah.
always kind of funny to see. But yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that had happened where it just kind of made me really laugh. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, there's little stuff here and there where people do, and you're just kind of like, how in the world? I just kind of
Yeah.
amazes me. They had uh, this lady that was running the combo, and I'd ran it for 2 years, and no issues. And then she ran it, and there was stuff that would happen, and I'm like, how in the world did she figure out how to do it? So I'd be just kind of questioning just how stuff happened. So that was kind of funny just to see how um, just weird stuff that would happen that she did, and then but
I I
but
I
happens when people are new and they're trying. I mean, you kind of see stuff that goes wrong,
oh,
but
I know. You see it all the time. I was in a shop in Alabama and I was walking through and they were coining, right? So the top tool has to match the bottom tool, and they're coming down hard on that thing, and they keep wondering why they're breaking the tools, but it didn't look like they matched. So yeah, as soon as I seen one break, I'm like, yeah, I walked around the other way. Last thing is want a tool come flying at you.
yeah, yeah. I've seen a lot of people cross tools in those. turrets, not taking their time
Oh yeah,
and crossing those. And sometimes you can get lucky and it doesn't do a lot of damage, but other times it can be pretty bad.
yeah, yeah. Definitely, definitely. Um, how do you deal with pressure on a tight deadline? Or you
Uh,
guys pretty much on schedule or ahead of schedule? Or
no, yeah, we get behind where um, you know the people at final assembly, they'll be getting ahead of us because they working extra hours, and then we kind of get behind and working extra hours. But it's one of those things where I think if you just kind of have a plan and set it ahead of time and
Mhm.
don't panic, because I think a lot of times panic and then you kind of start wanting to do too much and you're moving stuff around and then you're thinking, oh, well, if I do this, then this will be better. And you end up confusing yourself or you make it worse. So I think if you just stick with the plan, calm down and kind of take a step back and then adjust
Yeah,
everything, and look at it with a wide lens instead of just getting in that panic mode. I think that's usually the best way to go. It usually works out better that way.
yeah, yeah. Did you go to FabTech last year when it was in Orlando for the first time, or no?
So it's kind of funny. I went to Chicago the year before, and
Okay.
my wife is from Chicago, or outside of Chicago, so I'm familiar with that area. And I was like, oh man, I was like, this would be cool to go to. And then I'm like, I'm always up for going to Chicago, so I went up there for that. But last year, so I'm like, oh, it's right down the road, hour and a half. I'm there,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, yeah, I'll go. So I get out of work and I'm tired, and I get driving down four towards Orlando, and it's just dead traffic. I mean, just dead stop traffic. And I wasn't even within an hour of Orlando. I'm like, okay, maybe it'll
Yeah.
it'll open up. So then I go a little bit farther, a little bit farther. And I'm like, you know what? It's not even worth it. I just turned around and went back home.
Yeah. Yeah.
The traffic, I was tired and just couldn't deal with it. And I'm like, it's gonna be another 2 hours, maybe more before I got there. And I'm like, yeah, just so
Oh,
I didn't end up going.
dude, flying out of MCO was crazy, man. When I was leaving FabTech the last day, I flew out on a Thursday evening, and man, that airport was packed.
Oh yeah, yeah, and
I
then
was like, I thought I was going to miss my flight.
yeah, if you're lucky, you get over there in the new wing, and that's real nice over there. But the other
Okay,
stuff, I mean, yeah, it is, and it's always like that. I think every time I've ever gone, it's been like that,
yeah,
and just so crowded. And but I flew out of there one time. I think JetBlue might fly out of the other wing, and over there, I mean, it's nice. I mean, it's like night and day.
yeah,
You're lucky
yeah.
to get over there, then yeah, it's not too bad. But
Nah, nah. Um, well, FabTech's in Chicago this year, so I don't know. Maybe you get to come up and take a few days off in September, and your wife can come and see her family and everything, everybody up there in Chicago.
yeah, I think that's what we're planning for. I think we're going to try to go up there for a few days.
Yeah, yeah. Nice, nice. Yeah, I definitely hope that I think it will be FabTech will be back down in Orlando instead of because it used to always be in Atlanta, but I hope it's back down in Orlando because it was pretty good. Florida's nice.
Yeah,
They can handle it.
yeah, and once you get into Orlando, like Orlando's a cool city, but
Yeah,
man, just the outskirts and trying to get in and out, it's just, I mean, it's rough. But they just opened up another lane on four, and I've heard guys say that it's just like it's a game changer. So
yeah,
yes, it opened
yeah.
up that traffic, so it might not be as bad driving up there for me now. So
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because which way are you coming from? You're coming from down, uh,
yeah, southwest,
south. Yeah,
southwest of Orlando. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, man. So, uh, I'm going to ask you some questions on career and advice, and this will be specifically for the young guys out there or people who are looking to do something different, right?
Okay.
Um, what advice would you give someone just getting into fabrication?
I would say listen to people that know what they're talking about. Like if they're giving you advice, listen to what they're saying,
Mm,
and they might. And some people, you know, that have worked in the industry for a while, some of them can be abrasive. You know, that's just it's just how some of the older guys are. And
yeah,
don't take it personal. You know, they can come off that way, but they don't really mean it that way. So I think I've learned that you just can't don't take things personally, but listen to what they say because they really know what they're talking about.
yeah,
That's the biggest thing. Don't get discouraged when things go bad because I've had plenty of things where I've been embarrassed because I'm like, man, that couldn't have gone any worse. But then in the end, I learned more from it being a bad situation, you know, me messing up. I've learned more from that. And then I end up being really good at what I messed up on, you know,
yeah.
over long term. So don't be afraid to make mistakes, but you got to learn from them. You know, you can't keep
Yeah,
making.
yeah, you just can't keep making the same one day in,
Yeah.
day out, you know. Um, now, oh, this will probably get people's heads spinning on this one. Are certifications or training programs worth it in your opinion?
Uh, you know, I really don't. It depends on what it's for.
Yep.
You know, if it's something like really skilled, I would say yes. But I think a lot of it, you can just learn your way through it, like from the
Hmm.
shop floor. You know, if you've got good people that work there, you can learn everything that you would learn going through, you know, a certificate program or anything like that. You just got to
Definitely.
find a place that's willing to train somebody from the ground up, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. But yeah, I really think that you can, you know, if you've got good people, you don't need all that. You can learn as you go.
Yeah, I think you guys you've got to have a mentor or somebody, you know. I had a guy on the podcast yesterday that's coming out Monday. Pat Patterson. He's a good friend, and but if I'm stumped, I'd be calling him because he's smart, right?
Yeah,
He's a manufacturing engineer and he's done it all. So um, yeah, there's some things you just gotta, yeah, and sometimes certifications are good, um, training certifications, but it depends. Just get out there and do it, and do it the best you can.
yeah, and I think a
Right.
lot of times if you go through a program or something, and then you get to a shop, and then they don't do it the way that you were shown,
Exactly. Yeah.
and you're just starting from scratch anyway. They'll be like, "Yeah, what are you doing?" You know, and it's like, you know, that's the way you were trained in whatever program, but then you get somewhere and then they don't do it at all like that. So I think that's kind of the danger in it too. Uh,
Well, yeah, that's all. I went to welding school and did all that, but when I got in a job shop, it was completely different
yeah,
because I wasn't welding in the shop half the time, you
yeah,
know. So, we're always used to welding in a cubicle at the class, right?
yeah,
But when you go out in a job site, you might be 100, 200, 300 feet in the air on a tank welding something, or you could be anywhere, right?
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, it always changes. So, where do you see the industry heading in the next 5 to 10 years, you think, um,
I think,
based on what you're working with?
yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of, you know, more robotics and things like that. And AI is definitely going to be,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
you know, I think they might start using more AI just to program things, and maybe cut out the programmers that at certain places um, and stuff like that. And I think, you know, I hear a lot of places where they've got the cobots,
Yeah.
and um, you know, I think that might be a big thing here in the future, near future too. But yeah, I can definitely see it, the workforce, because they're, having a hard time finding people to do the job. So I can see where they might bring in more robotics and more
and
robots.
and the robots are getting cheaper.
Yeah,
You know, I've heard some people say, "Oh, dang, that robot's expensive," but you got to look at what it's doing, right? I I had I had one sitting on a Mitsubishi press brake, right? So, but that robot, it was you may think it's expensive, but you're actually changing. It's changing tools. It's picking parts. It's bending parts. It's putting parts back there. You
yeah,
know that's lights out. On a repetitive part.
yeah,
If you doing you got to have a good mixture of parts when you get into that stuff as well. But yeah, yeah. Uh, what's something you wish more people were understood about your line of work?
um, yeah. I think that the skill level it takes to run the machines and run, um, I think, especially when I was younger, like coming up in the late '90s, early 2000, I think there was a big push for, oh, you got to go to college, in high school, and that it was
Yeah.
planning for college. And I think it kind of, and it probably still is. I'm not 100% sure, but where it was kind of, they looked down on any of the trades or going into that line of work. And I think people kind of got a misunderstanding of, it's difficult. Like, you know, you got to know your measurements, you got to know how to read calipers, micrometers, things like
Hmm.
that. And it's not easy setting up the machines, programming things like that. It takes some skill and some intelligence to be able to do all that. And I think that's one thing I wish more people would realize.
Yeah, I know because that's like when I used to set up software to run with machines. You know, um, pe- you're setting up so many different machines and machine brands, and everybody expects you to remember every single line of code for every different machine.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um,
And
that's
a lot of times when you like troubleshoot something and there's an alarm that comes up, it doesn't necessarily tell you what it is. You might look in there and then it'll say, look in the book. And then you'll look in the book and it'll be like, call whoever. And
yeah.
but you got to kind of have a knowledge of the machine. And if you have a knowledge, you can look at that alarm and be like, okay, I think it traces back to this. And then you have to kind of figure it out from there. So, I mean, there's a lot of, you know,
Mm,
involved in figuring out, how to fix the machines and things. So, yeah,
yeah, well, that's like a chat GPT, right? I was just talking to someone the other day and they're at this company and they're trying to figure out how to fix this machine and get it up and running again. And they went to Chat GPT and put in the information and everything, and Chat GPT pretty much told them how to fix it.
all right.
That I mean,
Yeah,
that's crazy,
yeah, it
right?
is. Yeah,
Um, so I think there's a lot of stuff out there, that just come to my head. But
yeah.
um, now, Uh, any personal goals or shop upgrades you're excited about or you would wish for shop upgrades?
Yeah, I'm hoping that, that laser's been having some issues. So I'm hoping because they were talking about buying a whole new one. So
Mm,
I'm hoping maybe they'll buy a new laser. That'd be nice. Um, but yeah, and then maybe upgrade some of those turrets um, for there. But yeah,
yeah,
it's just keep learning, keep um, ex- expanding my knowledge of the machines and everything, and then just kind of work my way up through the company. And because I think there's a disconnect between the people that work on the floor and the people that work upstairs. Because I think a lot
mhm,
of times they hire people upstairs that haven't worked on the floor. So I'd like to work my way to where I'm in a higher position at the company to where I can bring that knowledge from working on the floor upstairs to where
Yeah.
it kind of it'll it'll be smoother, between upstairs and downstairs.
I
So
I
when I'm
think and that's true. I've seen some pretty good examples of that. Um, I know growing up in New Zealand, right? You go to high school, you go to Polytech, do your class, and then you can go to a shop, do an apprenticeship, right? And you learn. Say I wanted to be an engineer. The engineer still had to come out on the shop floor and do some work. They could have just go straight into the office and not see him ever again, right?
yeah,
Um, I think that's what makes people better, right?
yeah,
And you know, you look at MC Machinery and which are the Mitsubishi and AKS. Most of those guys, they've all worked installing lasers, service, and everything, and ended up working higher up. So, so they've been, I think that's pretty good.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I think it for longevity of the company, I think that's the best way to do it because if you know what somebody else is going through, then you're more likely to adapt and change and not be so stuck in your ways. Because I think some people get stuck in, oh, this is what I came up with. And when it doesn't work, they're like, no, it should work. And they kind of force it. Where if you
mm,
worked your way up, you're kind of like, okay, I understand this isn't going to work. Well, we'll change it, you know?
yeah, that's like the first shop I ever worked at. The owner of that company, he was a pattern maker by trade, and and then so yeah, it's amazing when you run a shop like that too. So, um, man, now here's some fun questions, man. Do you do fishing? Since you're in Florida, are you a big fisherman?
Yeah. I haven't done a lot of fishing here. Coming from Indiana, I feel like I had an idea of how to fish for the fish there, like in the lakes. And
Yeah,
then
yep.
And then I got down here and I'm like, I have no idea what like so I need to like maybe get with like a captain, do a charter or something and just kind of get an idea of like the bait, how to fish for everything down here. Cause yeah, I'd love to. 'Cause I enjoy fishing. Like I was um, at my in-laws in Louisiana about a month ago and went out to their pond, caught a few catfish and had a really good time. But just down here, it's just I I don't know how to catch what they have in the waters down here. So
Yeah. I love deep sea fishing. I love fishing off the rocks in the ocean. I
yeah,
love pier fishing in the ocean. Um, Now I've done a lot of fishing in the Carolinas, but phew, it took a long time to catch bass fish.
oh yeah,
It's a because you got to learn a different kind of fishing, and yeah, so I get that. Um, So I'm trying to ask every single one of my guests that I have on the podcast to leave us with one tip that for fabricators and or whoever, so I can do a add tips to my Instagram and have a tip on there each week or something. So give us a tip if you got one there.
yeah. I think um, don't get discouraged if things don't go right at first. Like if you're learning, it's going to take a little bit of time. And I think people nowadays they want everything so quick, and it's going to happen right away. And a lot of
That's
times,
it. Mhm.
it just
Amazon mindset.
yeah, yeah. So don't get discouraged when it doesn't happen right away. And not everybody's meant to know everything. You know, you're not going to just jump into it and be perfect right away.
Mm,
So just
mm.
kind of have the patience to deal with what comes along, and that's really how you learn and do the best. So,
Yep, yep. Man, hey Brian, I appreciate you jumping on, and yeah, I enjoyed talking to you, and we'll put a link to your Instagram in there as well, so people can reach out to you. Yeah, but I will catch you, and I'll talk to you shortly.
All right.
All
All
right.
right. Thank you. I had a good time talking to you.
Thanks, buddy. Have a
All right.
good one.
Thanks, you too.
All right, everybody. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the podcast this week. And it's Sheet Metal Unleashed podcast on Spotify, Apple, and everything. Okay. And search us out on Sheet Metal TV on YouTube. You can reach us at sheetmetaltv.com. And I look forward to seeing you out there on the next one. And have a great day. We're out.